one time in high school, I did injure myself pretty severely. It was an ankle injury. And my mom prayed over my ankle and she spoke in tongues. Woke up the next morning, my ankle was perfectly fine and I played. When I tell you that was like the first miracle that I saw.
I vividly remember my grandmother, my Lola. She was a praying woman. She prayed to Mother Mary and she prayed her rosary diligently.
Mm-hmm. I went into teaching because I love kids. And I used to call my students my kids. I love them so much to the point where when I started to realize I wasn't able to have kids.
The realization that, saying yes to Jesus was the most important yes of my life.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that the yes equates to an easy life.
No. You're gonna take me out for lunch now with that diaper
money? I can. Teaching milestones.
Yeah, ooh, milestones.
Oh, my baby wants, my baby gets.
Welcome to Mama and Her, the podcast.
A space for mature mothers and women navigating the exciting journey of motherhood after 35.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
Your new mom friends inviting you into conversation to help you thrive in your mom era.
We celebrate all the incredible layers that make you, you. Before mom, there was and still is so much more to you.
We're here to remind our community that you are still that girl.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Mama and Her, the podcast where faith, motherhood, and community meet. I am Kayla, she is Shannon, and we're back for another episode.
We are so happy you're here and you took time. It's hard to find time. And you're here with us, and we love that for us and you, because you're going to love this episode.
Absolutely. Speaking of today's episode, we are talking about our faith journeys. How it began, the inception to where we are now as grown women and everything in between. And so we are going to talk about a lot of things, really.
Yeah. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about our faith journey and just how that seed was planted. We're going to talk about when we lost our faith a little bit and how we struggled.
And it was challenged.
It was challenged. Our testimony, which will be intertwined with that, and how we incorporate God in our daily lives, because it is so easy to just put them to the side, So we have little tips and tricks that we work for us. And then we're going to share a couple of our favorite scriptures with you.
Yeah. I think before we even dive into this episode, we always start off with our temperature check. So with that being said, Shan, we'll do good, bad, ugly. How are you doing?
I think overall it's spring. Everything just feels lighter, renewal and all that stuff that comes with spring and Easter. The good is that I'm in a phase where I'm just loving all my kids. Like even through the bad times where they're just being super annoying or I'm overstimulated or whatever, I just have these moments where they come into bed in the middle of the night and they snuggle into my crevasses under our arm.
Your what?
Crevices. And they just nestle themselves and they tell me how much they love me. They caress my hair and I hold their hands and their hands are still so small. So I'm just really taking, because I feel like time is fleeting right now. So I'm at this age because 3 and 5, they're hardcore. There's lots of things going on, but there's just those moments. They're so loving and caring and affectionate. So that's the good. I'm really loving motherhood right now. And spending time with them. The bad is it makes me a little sad, to hear Nehemiah. He's just like me, where he cares a lot about friendship. And he's been struggling a bit at school with some of his, I'm going to do quotes, friends who don't treat him as well as I feel like they should. And I've seen it firsthand. He's also told me stories. So I have had to have a lot of talks with him about the importance of understanding that no one can fill your heart or void or make you happier. That's what God is for, and that's what we are as your family. But I just can't believe I'm having these conversations, and I feel a little sad because he comes home and he's like, I don't have any friends. And I know a lot of parents are going through this. And I should know how to now. I feel like I should understand it a little bit more as a teacher, but I just can't believe it's happening. He's 5, but I love his heart. It's big and open, but it's been a little.
But you want to protect that too.
I do.
Your mama bear comes out.
I know.
You don't want him to feel hurt or
yeah,
pain
but this is life, right?
Yeah.
So what about you?
My good is that my girl, Miss Kennedy Ann, is officially potty trained,
Woo!
ladies and gentlemen.
Get rid of those diapers. Like, just throw the diapers. Well,
Yeah, no, honestly-
now you're rich because you're rich.
Hello.
You're rich.
You know how much money I just saved in my monthly budget?
You better invest that money because listen,
I know.
it's
I should
so
pretend.
much money.
I need to pretend like it's still a thing and just invest
you
it.
should.
Yeah.
Telling you.
Yeah, she's potty trained. And you know
Go,
what?
girl.
It happened so organically. I'm not going to lie. When she turned 3 at the beginning of the year, the perfectionist mom in me was like, she has to be potty trained. Like, you got to get really firm on this now. And honestly, I had so many other things that I was focused on. I was like, listen, when she's ready, she'll be ready. And wouldn't you know, when she became ready, it happened like that within pretty much a week.
But that's
sure,
what I hear-
we had a few hiccups here and there.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I want to shout out my good friend, my sister Justine, because she gave part of her birthday gift to Kennedy was a pack of Paw Patrol undies,
and you
big
can't
girl
be,
underwear,
You can't be mashing those up,
right?
So,
And so she was like, "I want to wear Sky. I want to wear Everest
I love
today."
that.
And so it
encouraged her,
and it became a snowball effect. And so she was like, "I don't want to wear diapers. I'm a big girl." I'm like, "Yeah, you are."
no,
so
but that's
here
what
we
they
are.
say. They say it often, like there's a 3-day potty training thing where
Yeah, no, we didn't do that.
Well, if you have like carpet and you don't have places for kids to have accidents, it's not really the best idea.
And don't get me wrong, we had accidents. We did.
Right.
There was like a few days where the accidents happened, but there was a moment where I feel like it clicked. We were at Rona.
Okay.
Home or
Shout out Rona.
yeah. So I was there, and randomly,
Yeah.
she was wearing a diaper, and she stopped in the middle of the aisle we were in, and she had to go poo. So she squatted and just pooped right there. But the click, like the moment that it switched for her was when she did that, she was so disgusted. She was like, and so she's like waddling.
Yeah,
she was like, "Ooh, no, gross." I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't feel nice, does it?" And she's like, "Mm-mm." And from there, she was like, "Mm-mm, nope.
Yeah.
Mommy, I gotta go poo poo. I gotta go pee pee." I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay."
The organic thing worked for us too. We tried the 3-day with Neo. It just was a disaster, and he just rebelled. So we did organic after that, and it worked. And then whatever works for you.
Yeah,
whatever works for you.
any parent out there, if you are a toddler parent right now, and if you're kind of going through or about to go through this, when at least my experience, when they're ready, it'll just
Plus, like there's a thing in their brain that has to be mature enough, especially overnight. They cannot hold their pee if this part of their brain is not mature. So you really can't force that.
Yep.
That's a maturity thing. So but the daytime stuff, yeah. But you hype it up. Like when Neo and I used to go and like poo on their own, we used to like dance. We used to sing.
it's a big deal.
We used to throw like they got stickers. Yeah, you just be extra about it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I would say like that's absolutely
That's amazing.
That's my good.
I'm very happy for you.
Thank
So you're
you.
gonna take me out for lunch now with that diaper?
with that
money?
diaper money. I can.
Listen.
Treat you to milestones.
Yeah, ooh, milestones.
Oh, my baby wants, my baby gets.
I love you for
but
that.
yeah.
Okay.
So that would be that. As far as my bad or ugly, I got a parking ticket, and I told myself 2025 was the year that I was going to stop getting these stupid
Don't tell me it was for
unnecessary
the
tickets.
phone.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, a parking ticket.
Oh, parking.
Yeah.
I ticket. Okay.
We're not going to get into.
I
that
kind of
for
put your
another
stuff out on the streets right now. Sorry.
But
parking. Where did you park? Illegally. What did you do? Was it worth it?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't. It was. I absolutely risked it. I was like, it's only going to be not even 20 minutes. It's fine. It wasn't
Okay.
fine. So, I just literally, I visualized myself holding cash and throwing it down a toilet and flushing it.
Was it expensive?
60.
Like you did. Oh, I was like, please don't tell me you parked by a fire hydrant.
No.
Oh,
I had
okay.
more sense than that.
Yeah.
But it's still, that's exactly what I visualized.
Yeah.
So I was upset at myself for that. But anyway.
It happens.
We move on. We move on.
We move.
So, Godwink.
Oh, Godwink.
Do we have one this week?
I mean, we always have one.
This requires a little more
Yeah. So
self-reflection?
basically, listen, with money, it's like sometimes God provides in ways that's not necessarily financial, but when you're struggling financially, you have to have money to do stuff like
Absolutely.
as an adult. But yeah, there was a time where I was just like, I was struggling and he showed up. Like check just came in the mail from, I don't know where, but it's there. I took care of things. I just feel like, wow, like, and I was stressed. So, but I prayed. You can't really worry and pray at the same time. So I worried and then I prayed and then I felt better and then boom. So yeah, he showed up. That's beautiful to me. It's just,
It will usually come in ways that we don't expect it to. So it's not going to just be in this case and
a check,
right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's all of a sudden a friend who was like, hey, you were on my heart. And you know what? I had this grocery gift card. I just wanted to give this to you. Yeah. I just felt like you might need it.
Sorry, now that you say that, I did have a friend and she literally just gave me she helped me out and I didn't say anything. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me. Shout out to my girl. That was such a beautiful gesture because as adults, we have so much to take care of.
Yep.
And it's awkward anyways. Yeah. So thank you. It's like you knew. Okay.
and that's the way I feel like God works. He works through other people. So, right. She may not have no idea what you're going through, or you might be the vessel and like, hey, I don't know where this came from, but something's just telling me to do X, Y, Z. And you're being obedient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
little wink, wink. What about you?
A God wink for me would be, I feel like when you get to a point when you're walking with God and you've been walking with God for a while, not everything's honky-dory. Not everything is smooth sailing. And I found myself a while back, in a bit of a space, in a headspace where that we're going to wrap up quarter one.
Yeah.
Where I was angry.
Okay.
I was angry with him. And I think to me, and I'll say this, my God wink was feeling let down, feeling disappointed, feeling angry with him. We're talking like a solid 2 weeks. I just had this frustration, the same way you would feel frustrated with a friend or a partner or whoever. I felt that towards God. And my God wink was that in that time frame of feeling angry and frustrated with him, he was still so kind to me. And he sat there with me. And I think it just reminded me that God has big shoulders and he can take our anger and our frustration. And so, and then as I was preparing for this episode and I was writing down something, it brought me back to that mindset of, wow, God, you're so good. And thank you for being kind with me. Thank you that, he is a good father in the sense that when we're having meltdowns and tantrums, even as adults, he's still kind to us and he's patient with us. So
I need to harness that. I need to harness some of that energy.
Yeah.
I do ask God for patience a lot because I need more, but that's beautiful. Yeah. That's grace, man.
All right. We're overdue.
All right. We're overtime. We're going to get fined.
We're going to get another ticket.
We're going to get technical.
We're going to take a quick break, but you were watching Mama and Her. We'll be back with the second quarter. Stay with us. Welcome back to quarter two of Mama and Her. Today's topic, we are discussing our faith journeys. I think this is an episode very near and dear to our hearts because our faith walk is something that we hold very near to our hearts. It's important. And it was something that we said at the beginning of starting this podcast that we wanted to share with our community at some point. Yeah. And so here we are. Yeah. So I figure it makes sense to kind of kick things off with what is our faith journey? How were you introduced to God, Shannon? What has your experience been like? And I guess you could start at the beginning.
At the beginning, there was my mom who is and was a strong Christian woman coming from Trinidad. For as far as I know, she was always a Christian. I don't know if her whole family was. So I don't really know about that piece, but I would have loved to have known. But all I know is when she married my dad, she was a Christian. My dad was Catholic, but not practicing. She was hoping that she could have brought him closer to God. And we tried. It didn't work out. It can still work out, though. I'm not going to say it won't, but that's where they didn't match up. But because she was just a phenomenal believer, unashamed follower of Christ. And she made sure my brother and I were raised that way in the church. around the word. The Bible was always on the table open with, highlights and, notes. So as a baby, I was baptized, not having the choice, but she baptized my brother and I. And all I remember is like my mom and my brother and her being in church and not realizing my dad wasn't there. He'd come on like the holidays, I think, just to show face.
Right.
And I guess that was nice, at least he didn't not come, but he was always missing. But then as I was growing up, I just, would see my mom praise God in a way that was just so different from what I don't know that I maybe saw on TV but she'd always have her hands up, just like
praising,
singing,
worshiping.
like it wasn't even like this. It was always like, both hands and like she'd close her eyes and I'd be watching her at church like, wow. Like, and then she always just reminded me who I was in God and like that we were so loved. By him for like God loved me more than she loved me. And I was just like, what? But I always felt there was that presence. I never doubted it. And I obviously she prayed in the womb for me and my brother. So I think we just came out as believers. And there was just I just did not think of anything else. Something that really shifted in me. I love church. I love Sunday school. But one time in high school, I did injure myself pretty severely. It was an ankle injury. I was on the basketball team and I was told I couldn't even walk. It was swollen. And my mom prayed over my ankle and she spoke in tongues. And that was the first time I was just like, I've never seen her speak in tongues. Like maybe I would hear her, but I didn't really understand it. And the church we went to was
Did that scare you?
It did a little, but it also just was like, my mom is just like legit. She's connected to God, like
prayer warrior.
And so she was like, yeah, holding my ankle. And I just was like in awe. And she's like, in Jesus' name, whatever. I went to bed, woke up the next morning, my ankle was perfectly fine. And I played. When I tell you that was like the first miracle that I saw, people probably don't believe me.
You shouldn't have walked.
No,
let alone play.
It was swollen and I couldn't walk the night before. For me to get out of bed and I can walk, it's not swollen. And I played and we won and I played well. Whatever it is, she was anointed and everyone knew it. And if anyone needed anything, they would call her to pray and she would pray. She has that gift. I don't know if I have that. Maybe I do and it just hasn't come out. But honestly, she just was so unashamed. She would talk to everybody about her faith. Like it didn't matter who. And people would just always be like, you're so loving, you're so kind, you're so much light. And she's like, yeah, it's God. Like, she just was so like, and then, I went to university and I wanted to find a different type of church, more so like Pentecostal gospel. And I was searching and I found one. But then I was like being pulled, whether it was my friendships, my relationship, it was like, I was just teetering on like this, following God is hard, forget this. Like, yeah, I'm
being in this world, but not being of it.
Yeah. And I didn't fully buy in at that point. Cause I was like I'm going to say I was wishy-washy. I was.
Yeah, lukewarm.
Lukewarm. And I did lots of things that I know God was not happy with, but you know what? He forgave me. He showed up. He still that's the thing is I always thought I was getting punished for things when things weren't working out the way they should. I'll talk about later, but really no, it was just I had to arrive at a place where I just knew God was in me. It takes time sometimes, So thank God he protected me. He covered me through a lot of stuff that I literally could have just been ruined by. Ruined, girl. Lost my life, been taken advantage of, lost my innocence, like all the things I put myself in situations. I'm like, wow, just wow.
The way he covered you when you didn't even know you needed it, when you were, the way that we act so reckless, the way in which we think that we have time, that we're, superhuman almost, especially in our youth, when we have that feeling of you're unstoppable. Yeah. And you look back now as you reflect and you were like, that was nothing but the grace of God.
Yeah, the stupid stuff
I should be dead.
I know. I should be. And I should be. That's what I'm saying. It's so hard to explain everything. But I'm telling you right now, it's just I'm here today because of God's grace. And he not only provided me with a life that I could not, you know, it exceeds my expectations, because he just does that. He's like, I got you. Just wait, you know? So I did accept Christ into my life. Sorry, I skipped this. In high school, that was my own, you know, doing. And I love that. I got water baptized at my church. But again, like from there, it just like things kind of went downhill. And then I had to come back. So then, you know, break up with this, you know, toxic relationship. And then that's what brought me back to God. I went on a missions trip, 2 missions trips to Africa with Athletes in Action. You know, the way that God moves in these East Africa. I went to Rwanda. Like, I just felt like it was just to see God in all of these children who have nothing. Like, it just renewed so much strength and faith. And then I was surrounded by Christians, and it was just such a healing moment for me. And that's when I just came right back to him. I ended up meeting Paul, who's a PK, funny enough, pastor's kid. Yeah.
Pastor's kid. Yeah.
Pastor's kid, preacher's kid. And like, he's a strong Christian. And it just kind of like, you know, just helped push me forward as a Christian. I am not perfect. I have so much to learn. Like when I don't have scriptures memorized and all this stuff, but I know my relationship with God is so good, and he gets me, I get him, and he's just shown up in my life like, wow, how can I not believe he's real? Like, there's just too many times. So that is my, you know, journey in a nutshell. And I'm grateful for all of it.
That's amazing. I don't know why I'm getting emotional.
Are you? I mean, sometimes, we didn't even bring the Kleenex.
It's okay. It's fine. But maybe we should grab some Kleenex at some point. But no, it's just the reminder of, like when you sit back, you know, at our age, right? In our 30s and in our 40s, and like you've been through some things. And so when you take a moment to pause and look back at the journey of where you started from to where you are now, that's what gets me emotional, because because he didn't have to save me, but he did. I was raised Catholic. You know, I was brought up by my Filipino grandparents, and I think like anyone, if you are Filipino, 9 times out of 10, you grew up Catholic. And so, growing up, I went to a Catholic high school, elementary school, and that was my introduction to religion. I had the prayers memorized to a T. I knew when you go to mass, I knew when to stand up, I knew when to sit down. But the best way that I could describe it is that I knew religion, but I didn't know what relationship was. And all the while, I felt like my Bible was collecting dust, because it was. I knew religion and I knew what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And there was a certain fear, right? Because I was brought up like, you don't do certain things. So I knew what like the fear of God was, but I didn't know what a relationship with God was. And so fast forward to when I was 17 and I got my volleyball scholarship and I moved down to Grambling, Louisiana. And it was my time at Grambling that I say all the time that choosing to go to Grambling State University was one of the greatest decisions of my life. Yes, for volleyball, but more importantly, it's because that's where I found my relationship with Jesus Christ. And if not for anything else, whether it's my degree, the friendships I made, it was the seed that was planted at Grambling through teammates and people that I came across during my time there that changed the trajectory of my life.
And it just shows you that seed can be planted at any time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be from in the womb or when you're a baby or whatever. It's never too late.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like I vividly remember my grandmother, my Lola. She was a praying woman. She, you know, of course, like I said, like part of the culture. You know, she prayed to Mother Mary, and she prayed her rosary diligently, like clockwork, like constantly had her rosary in her hands. And I remember that image of her in my head very well. And even same with my Lolo, you know, he, even to this day at 92 years young, it still prays every morning, every night. And so, and I do believe that the prayers of our parents and our grandparents still protect us and cover us. So when we talk about there's times where I should have been dead or I should not be here, like there are real situations that we were in that the outcome should have been different. I truly believe we are covered by people's prayers that
Yeah.
who love us, who came before us.
For sure.
You know, going back to my time at Grambling, it was in my second year that I dedicated my life to Christ. Like you know, I was baptized when I was a baby, but I didn't know. This was the first time I made a decision. And so that is where it really truly began. And I remember I actually entered on this journey with one of my best friends, with Nay. We were teammates together. You know, she's still my sister to this day. And we were teammates, we were roommates, and we were sisters in Christ. We are still to this day. And so we walked on this journey, and, you know, to your point, not a perfect one. You know, I said yes, I gave my life to Christ. And I think that was obviously the most important decision. But I still backslid, you know, I still made mistakes. I was still trying to figure it out. I was like, you know, what do you mean by saying yes, you know, that I am now, that this is a big deal, that like, that my soul is being saved, what do you mean that God is more than just this big entity who can be angry at me all the time? And knowing who God was and learning about the different versions, that there's so many names of God in the Bible, from Yahweh to Elohim to Emmanuel to Abba. And the biggest thing I remember in my walk, and even to this day, honest to goodness, I still struggle with, is that knowing that God is a father to us, that he is a good father that wants the best for his children. And that includes intimacy, that includes a relationship. Hence why we have free will, right? We get to make the decision to choose to say yes to him, to choose to commune with him, to have a relationship. The same way you have to talk to your best friend, to your husband, to your children, and build a relationship, is the same way that God desires to have a relationship with his children. But he won't force us into it. And I wrestled with that for a while, because I have a broken relationship with my earthly father. And I didn't experience that softness, that father-daughter love that you're supposed to have. And so because my earthly example does not reflect our godly father, I struggled with accepting that. Like, what do you mean you really care about me, that you love me beyond measure, beyond words can describe, that you desire to want to be in communion with me? I wrestled with that. And honestly, I still do to this day. That's where it started in my early 20s. And then from there, I still remember when I gave my life to Christ and I started going to church more, the first Bible verse that I memorized was Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6, which is, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And that's a verse that, honestly, I don't even know why that was the verse I picked to memorize first, but it has stuck with me. And I remember actually, as I was like preparing for today's episode, and I reread that verse, because it's one of those things, like, now I've said it thousands and thousands of times, but I sat and I pondered it, like I really took it in, and like it got me emotional, because lean not on our own understanding. Because that's the thing, like even now to this day, I still wrestle with moments where I feel like I constantly am fighting back and forth with surrender and letting him take the wheel, like Jesus take the wheel, like really in my life, and with all things, whether it's dilemmas or trust or how I'm going to just continue to walk on a regular daily basis, right? I think over time, like you, so this is when I was 21 years old, 20 years old was when I gave my life to Christ. You know, I'm 36. So I've been, walking with him for going on 15 years. And it hasn't been perfect. I backslid like crazy. I still was sinning. I was still messing up. I was still making horrible decisions. But over time, God he's kind with us in this, as we're wrestling, as we're working things out, while we're still making dumb decisions. He still shows us grace time after time. And it's not grace that should be taken for granted. Oh, well, God's just going to forgive me, so might as well just keep on doing it. Over time, as I continue to, tap in by opening my Bible and reading it more and going to, Bible studies in church, I started, like that inkling, whether you call it, your gut feeling, or I would say it's conviction from the Holy Spirit. You start to realize, like, no, certain things, like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Doesn't align.
Doesn't hit like it once, so a lot of the things that, that of course our society and our world consider okay.
And celebrate. Yeah.
And celebrate and encourage, right? It was like, it slowly started to eat at me. I was like, no, like, this is not right. I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. And so, not to say that I am, like I said, perfect, because I still would feel that, and honestly, still sin.
Yeah.
Still make a stupid decision. But over the years, despite my poor decisions, he stayed by my side.
Yeah.
And I am forever grateful for that. And I think because of that, and all of the situations that I've gone through, because like I said, like when you go through some things, especially when you give your life to Christ, I think a lot of people believe that, being a Christian, it's easy.
Right.
It's going to be a walk in the park. No, actually it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
The Bible literally says that in this world, you will have trouble. Not you might encounter it, or it may happen. You will have trouble in this world. But it says to take heart, because I have overcome the world. I think for me, the realization that, saying yes to Jesus was the most important yes of my life.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that the yes equates to an easy life.
No.
It means, though, that I'm saying yes to a greater, that this life is temporary.
We're just passing through.
It's fleeting.
Yeah.
And it's the bigger picture of what am I going to do beyond my time on earth. So that's the buzzer.
Welcome back to quarter 3. Right now, we are going to talk about when our faith has been tested. And I know it hasn't been tested just once, but yeah, let's just take our time to just share whatever you feel comfortable with about when you felt that you really just didn't know
if you were going to, ride it out.
Yeah, because so I would,
Yeah, I think, anyone who's watching this, if you're a believer, then there was absolutely a point where you said yes, right? We just talked about saying yes. And then many can relate to the idea that you're on this spiritual high, right? You're walking with God. You've given your life to Christ. Everything's amazing. And then there comes the times where life will hit you hard and your faith gets tested.
Yeah.
And, I think, without sounding cynical, if anyone says that their faith hasn't never been tested before, they just haven't lived long enough. You just give it some time. You'll experience it. Honestly, for me, as I was thinking about this, hands down, I'd say the biggest challenge when it came to my faith was a few years back. I feel like life as I knew it, came crashing down in March of 2023. So nearly about 2 years ago. And it started when the December before that, so that was December of 2022, I was pregnant with my second child. And at 13 weeks, I miscarried. And that was really hard because I felt like I did something wrong. I blamed myself. I remember feeling in such disbelief because it happened later, and unfortunately miscarriages usually happen earlier. And I remember it was days before Christmas of 2022, and we were literally going to share the news with our family and our friends. And then it happened, and I just kept asking why. I could not understand why. And then, like I said, that was December of 2022. And then it just felt like life, it happened so fast. Like I didn't even really have almost time to process it. The next month was January, and that was Kennedy's first birthday. And so while there was pain, there was also joy. And it felt like January, we celebrated her birthday. And then February, I went back to work. my mat leave was up, and then I was processing life as a new working mom, like this new struggle, this new balance, this dance of not being with her all the time and getting back into my work routine. And then March of 2023, and it was, literally the day after my 2-year wedding anniversary. Like I said, my life got flipped upside down. Life as I knew it. I was married, I had a husband, and I had a marriage. And then all of a sudden, I didn't. I experienced the worst form of betrayal from the person who I just did not expect it from. It felt like my world just shattered in that moment when I found out there was just this, it was betrayal. It was a lot of things. And yeah, like I said, the family, the marriage, the life that I had felt like we had built was gone. And then a few months after that, all of a sudden, I found myself as broken, in shock, now as a single mom, and just trying to wrap my mind around, how did this happen? What is going on? It felt like everything was stripped from me, and it was happening so fast, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't process it. Yeah, I was really in the valley. It was hard. It was dark. There's no doubt and I went through the worst depression I've ever felt. There was even intrusive thoughts, if I'm being honest, because I was just asking God, why?
Why? Yeah.
Just couldn't. I could not wrap my mind around why he would let that happen to my marriage, why he would let that happen to my child, why he would allow this to happen. Why? What did I do? And so I asked, I struggled with why for so long. And there was a song that in the midst of it, I clung to, and it's called For My Good. It's by Maverick City Music. And I had to actually write down the lyrics and it made me cry all over again because it was so true. And it said, when I should have lost my mind, you showed up right on time. You carried me through the valley all the way on the other side. And when pain tried to take my joy, that's when I felt you more. And now I've got to testify, God, that you kept my heart alive. And that summarizes the last 2 years of my life, because I was in the lowest of valleys and I felt like I was broken. I was a shell of myself. But in that, I felt like there was a point where I reached a fork in the road. I'd been doing this Christian walk for over a decade. I've been through some things, and this wasn't my first, but this was the darkest, hardest valley that I had been in. And I remember thinking to myself, this might be where I walk away. I'm just so glad that I didn't. And instead, with tears in my eyes, with rage, with anger, with sadness, I leaned in closer to God and into my faith. And what I discovered was that in the valley, he was there with me through all of the pain, through the questions, through the anger, through the doubts, asking the whys, right? When we want to understand and comprehend with our human brains, why would you allow this to happen? And, I mentioned earlier, there's so many different names for God. And in this season that I was in, the one closest to my heart was El Roy. And El Roy means the God who sees. And I just feel like in a season where I was forgotten about, I was left for nothing. and it should have taken me out, and it should have broke me. But he was the God who sees, and he saw me in the valley, and he stayed with me, and I felt like he just walked with me through it graciously. And slowly but surely, over time, pieced me back together. And it made me the whys, like when we go through these seasons, like, why did my mom have to die so young? Why couldn't I not have had a better relationship with my father? Why did my marriage have to end? Why did I have to lose out on my child? Why couldn't I, like, all of these whys? It's in the pain that what I can share is that he's still in the midst. He is still working. That even whether it is a diagnosis, if it's a physical death or it's a death of a relationship or something that you just didn't see coming, in all of these like hard, difficult, tough human experiences that we at one point or another go through, he is still real. And he is still there if we allow him to. I think that for me, the way in which he graciously has slowly pieced me back together is why I feel the need to share my story. Because I know that as I've shared my story, little bits and pieces over time, the amount of people, men and women, who have been able to relate to it. That's why it says there is power in your testimony. The enemy, the devil, wants us to stay quiet. He wants us to honestly just lay down and die.
Yeah.
But these storms that enter our lives are meant to destroy us.
Yeah.
With God, like, he is more than a conqueror. And I know that to be true.
Yeah.
I know that in my heart of hearts. Do I know that? Now, as I humbly say, being out of the valley, that was in my life, and being on the other side of it, I do feel like God has given me almost like a level of empathy for other people, specifically women who have gone through similar situations, because I know that pain and I know what it's like. And I just want to, if I can say anything, I just want to steer them a little closer to Jesus, and let them know that it is okay to wrestle with these thoughts and emotions. But you wrestle, that means you're engaged. But when you walk away, there's like, just don't walk away is what I'm saying.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. I knew this was going to be hard.
And I know, like, I obviously watched you go through it. I couldn't imagine your pain because the pain I felt for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was awful. But,
and to that point, like, he sent me friendships and sisters like you who walked with me in the valley too. Yeah. And that's why, like, I am so appreciative of sisterhood and friendship. And community, because, like, this is a perfect example. Like, you walked with me through that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to be as strong as I am. And if I didn't have friends and women to lean on. And I think to myself, I think of you, I think of Ligia, I think of Justine, I think of Nay, I think of Vanya. You girl, you know who you are. I think of those women who were praying for me when I didn't even know, who covered me, who protected me, who just asked, who checked in on me. So though in that, without even you guys knowing, were God sends. Those, you guys were ultimate God winks in my life. So yeah. Oh man. You know, everyone has, that was my valley, right? But there's so many different types of valleys. And I know that your valley is different, but it does not mean it is any less painful.
Yeah.
And so I want to give you space and time. Shan, I just want to let you have your time.
I have a couple testimonies, but I'll pick the biggest valley I was in, and I was pulled out of, and it was years. Like, oh, wow. It's funny because when I was in the valley, I was like, I fell deeper into the valley. during my time in the valley. So anyways, oh gosh, I hate crying and talking. Woo. I do this at weddings. Like, I got married at 32. My husband was 28. You know, I dealt with endo, fibroids, heavy periods. My mom kind of shared with me that, you know, she did struggle a bit to get pregnant, but she ended up having my brother and I, but she did have complications, that she was a little concerned about me and my fertility, but nothing to the point where I felt like I needed to, you know, get tested, like, you know, my levels or my egg count or anything. And at 32 is young. I never felt pressure. Like, I never felt her saying like, oh, you're getting old. Like, you know how parents sometimes like say things like, I want to be a grandma. She never said that. And I always felt younger in general. Like I always had a young spirit about me, and physically I was in great shape. So my timing, like, obviously didn't rush into marriage with Paul. We dated for 10 years. And that was because I just felt like, you know, I had time. And I think society just keeps telling women when we turn 25, like they just start bombarding us with, why aren't you dating? You know, what about your eggs? And you get these like messages. Anyways, they didn't really faze me. However, you know, I spent most of my 20s having hormonal issues and struggling with my periods, and also like being on birth control for my periods, or even trying not to get pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, so there was no fear that when I decided I wanted to become a mom, I would, because I knew I was supposed to be a mom. Because of, I just knew it. Paul, he loves kids so much. He comes from a pretty big family, and like I just assumed I could give him
children.
Like at least 2 to 4. He was talking like 6, but I was like, relax. But as a teacher, I went into teaching because I love kids, and I used to call my students my kids. And it was like, sorry, it's like I'd have all these kids, you know, like that would see me and love on me. And I was like, these are like, I love them so much, to the point where when I started to realize I wasn't able to have kids. I honestly thought that this was God being like, these are your kids, and like, that's your story. Or like he was punishing me for something, you know, like for all the things I did that I shouldn't have done. So when I was teaching, I literally like took these kids on, and I poured my heart into them, and I love that. And I was like, okay, well then maybe this is my story, but I just didn't feel like that was it. And there was a great sadness, especially like it wasn't anyone's fault, but students would always be like, how come you don't have kids, you know? And not any fault of their own, but I was just like, you're my kids. Like you know, and I'm like, one day when I do have mine, and then I just start to the doubt. So maybe like 3-4 years into our marriage, because I'm 32, I should be able to we didn't try to have kids, but like you just assume after you get married, if you want to have them, you can just have them, because that's what it seems like.
Or even take your time, and then when you decide, okay, let's try now, it's like it should just be that.
Yeah,
but that's not
exactly
the case.
And that's, a lot of people talk about how easy it is, but when I was going through it 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of open talk about infertility, in my opinion, or I just didn't see it. So I struggled, man. Like I showed up with a smile, but there was a deep sense of like, Paul's gonna resent me, and he didn't, but like that's how I felt. Or I'm just gonna feel like something, I didn't want to accept this. So that's when I was like, maybe I need to go see my doctor. So that's around 35. See the doctor. She's like, okay, you know, you have endometriosis, which can make things harder. And then, you know, got my eggs tested, and like they weren't horrible quality. Paul got tested. He's perfectly fine. So again, it all kind of rode on me. And that was when the guilt came in. Like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Why? Like, and I just find like, in my life, the things that meant the most to me was basketball. That was taken away from me at a certain point. And now children, that was being tested. And I'm like, I was angry.
Yeah.
I'm a good person. I help raise other people's children so they could be great. Like, I was like, how is this not my story? And then it was like, oh my God, he's like, I'm not going to have like kids, and my parents are not gonna be grandparents. And I was like, this is just absolutely a nightmare. And I just was struggling. So Paul and I struggled, it was very hard on our marriage, but we really tried. We enjoyed traveling without kids, but people would make those comments like, what are you guys waiting for? Is he doing it right? Like, Some of the craziest things. And you would not believe who it came from, like the people in our lives. But again, not that it was malicious, but like it was just so hurtful. And then I decided to try IVF, and I was feeling desperate, so around 37, because again, still not pregnant.
Yeah.
If you do not conceive after 1 year of trying, you're considered to have infertility after a certain age. I think it's after 35. I'm infertile. I'm not able to get pregnant. Why is this happening? I'm doing all the things, but I am spreading myself too thin. I'm like overworking. I'm coaching. I'm, just occupying my time and not enough with God at all. So that's when I was slowly pushing him away. My mom, really was just reminding me through prayer, and like she said that she knew she was going to be a grandmother, got called into the infertility clinic, because there's usually a line. And yeah, Paul did not want to do it. He felt like this was not the way that God was going to provide children for us. I'm going to say this, like he never
wavered.
No. I mean, if he did in his head, I would never have known, but he did it. And like, I was also getting upset at him. Like almost like, are you like, what, how many more years are you going to just be like this? And I'm getting older. My eggs are not getting there. My quality is going down. It's in the records. I have fibroids. I have fluid in my fallopian tubes. I have all these issues. So then we're going to try IVF, and I'll just go straight really fast through. It didn't work.
Yeah.
It took 2 years.
Now you're really feeling like
that was it.
Yeah.
Because I lost my faith. I was just like, I'm going to science. And like God created science, but like I was like, no, like we're going to go on science.
Right.
Didn't work. I only got 2 embryos. That's a whole other story. And I implanted twice. So it's like the second implantation, like the doctor even said, oh, you're pregnant, like when he implanted it. And I was like so excited, and then I ended up losing it. And like, that's a loss.
Yeah.
And again, that was my final embryo. I was done.
To your knowledge.
Yeah, to my knowledge. Yeah. That was created artificially. That was it. What's left? Again, that's when we're like, okay, do you want to have kids? These are the options. I could use someone else's egg, Paul's sperm, create an embryo, not carry the child myself because apparently my womb is not good, and have a baby that's half. At least he'll get it. And like, I really struggle with that. I took time off work because I could not show up to work and just because people would ask me if I was pregnant because I look pregnant. Because when you go through IVF, you take fertility drugs that create your womb to look like it prepares your womb for pregnancy. So people would be like, "Oh, you're like, are you expecting?" And it would just
set you off.
Like I literally would have to go into the photocopy room and cry. No one knew. Like there was one teacher, she used to pray for me. Like praise God for her. Like she used to come. She pulled me in the photocopy. She'd lay her hands on my womb and pray for me. Oh. And like that is like someone I just met, you know, like God sent her, you know, to get me through. But then I just took time off because I was like, I cannot do this. And my dad was also very sick at this time. I thought I was gonna lose my dad. So I just decided to step away from what was taking all my energy, which was school and teaching and loving. My love was going elsewhere, not focusing on God. I decided to like seek out a naturopath, seek out a therapist to deal with my grief of losing the idea of me becoming a mom the way I wanted to become a mom. Yeah. You know, just repairing parts of our marriage and intimacy, because like that's a whole other story.
Yeah, of course.
When trying to
it just takes a toll on every facet.
I just spent time with my mom, not knowing 6 months later I was gonna lose her. So that's also like a gift, because for me to take a leave away from school, stress leave, which I would never do. Shannon would never do that because I feel like I disappoint all these kids. I did, and it was because God wanted me to spend time with my mom. Not my dad. I love my dad, but he was sick and he wasn't supposed to survive, which is why I wanted to help her. But I ended up spending so much time with her, and we repaired a lot of our relationship because we were rocky, like me and her butt heads a little bit, right? Anyways, went on our first trip together. I treated her. And then I came back from the trip. She again prayed over me. I still was like, whatever happens, God happens. Like, I was just like, you know, there's one fertility clinic I want to try because they're the best of the best. Got back from the trip, went to this fertility clinic. Paul was like, why are we here? They basically told me it's impossible to conceive naturally. Like, this is the best fertility clinic in Canada. Told me options were adoption, surrogacy, and whatever. And I was just like, I could not wrap my head around it. Little did I know I was pregnant.
Come on now.
Sitting in the office when that doctor told me I could never conceive. And I didn't find out till later, but like Paul said in that meeting, he started laughing when the doctor said I could never have babies. He started laughing and the doctor was like, sorry, sir, are you okay? Like he's a little crazy. He just started laughing. And I thought he was laughing at the price because the price was outrageous. That's a whole down payment plus more. Like
honestly.
And she even said, like, if you don't have Celine Dion money, like this might not be for you.
Wow.
And I was just like, so my heart was broken. He's there laughing. I'm like, get out of the office. We're on Bay Street. I'm like, I was like, what is wrong with you? And I like want to drop to my knees. And he's just like, let's go have breakfast. And he goes, God told me we're going to have a baby. Again, I did not know I was pregnant. A week later, I did the test because my period didn't come. I was pregnant. I told my mom. And then, as you know, like she was so happy, excited. And then she wanted to go back to Trinidad to see her family because her brother was sick and ended up passing away there unexpectedly before Nehemiah came. So anyways, that was a whole other valley. But the point is like, I'm here today. My mom is...
She knew.
She knew, and she prayed for this baby. And little did I know, in the basement, she had all this baby stuff she collected over the years that I found later. So she always knew I was going to have a baby. Like, whatever way I was going to have the baby, I was going to have a baby. And Paul picked a name, Nehemiah, before my mom passed away. He just wanted that name, didn't share it with me. Come to find out, Nehemiah means God's comfort. Just God knew I was going to need him to comfort me. Gosh, God has just exceeded my expectations. I am a mom of 2 after 40. Naturally, I had 2 back-to-back, a boy and a girl, both healthy. I just
Despite what all the doctors said, what all the science said, what all of the on paper, statistically, you should not.
No.
You should not be a mom.
The doctor said impossible. And Paul said, when I repeated what she said, he's like, she's not God. And I knew that, but I needed God to show me.
Yeah.
Like, I was mad. And the fact that he did not take offense to my thoughts about him, he showed up and not only like, he added like more than I could ever imagine. Like, I thought I was going to, the fact that I had 1, now I have 2 and they're healthy. And that's natural, you know? So praise God. Obviously, losing my mom was the hardest thing, but she's the one that gave me the gift of knowing God.
Yeah.
The greatest gift she ever gave me.
And you can have peace knowing that she not only introduced you and set your foundation, but she also covered you in prayer, and Neo and Naya. Yes. Even though she may not have ever physically met them, and that she's still watching over them to this day.
Yeah. That was really tough.
Gosh.
Or is everyone okay? I'm not okay. What the?
Take your time. It's okay.
Oh, it's like, you know, time doesn't, like, it's been going on 6 years. Like, but just, I think it's like, I get a mixture of emotion because like, I just still can't believe I have 2 babies. And, you know, God just, and I'm 40 something and wow. I do feel my mom's presence and I do.
You just shared your valley story. And now look, the way you just shared a testimony of God's grace.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by he can take any situation, no matter how bleak, no matter how dead it looks. Yeah. And still turn it around. In some way, shape, or form. And I understand that there are stories where it appears God may not show up on time, on our time.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe it's you were supposed to save my loved one.
Yeah.
That should have happened. And so I want to acknowledge that there are those moments too.
Well, when my mom passed.
Exactly.
I was like, why?
Right.
And again, we don't understand.
There are some things that I've learned that we may never get the why. Yeah. We may never get the reason. We may never get an explanation. We may never get an apology. We may never get something that we can comprehend. But sometimes that is where our faith simply has to grow, in knowing that if I trust that God is a God who is ultimately good at his core, then even pain and brokenness and horrible, horrible things can still be worked out.
Yeah. I heard this like pain has purpose. And I know it sounds, when you're in it, if someone were to say that to me when my mom passed, I would have probably
Told them to be quiet.
Yeah.
To shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now
I want to hear that.
I can see purpose of having Neo when I did, and like there's just so much, right? So again, I can only speak on me, but not to say that takes away my pain and my grief of my mom not seeing her here physically with me, and I miss her so much.
Yeah.
And you never got to meet her. Oh my gosh, like that just irritates me because I told her about you and she was like, she sounds so wonderful.
I remember you shared with me when you had a dream that she came to you in a dream, and that you told her about me, or you shared that, and I just thought that was just so beautiful. And I know
she loved friendship like me, and she would get sad when people didn't like listen. Basically, we're the same person. She's like on another level, but anyways, wow. Okay, so this is long.
Yeah. No, we'll take a breather.
Take a break. Yeah.
We're gonna go into the fourth quarter. We'll wrap things up with a bit of encouragement.
Yes.
And
this is all encouragement. Just
it is. But you know what? And listen. I knew it's okay. It happens, and like this is real. This is exactly why we wanted to share our stories, because our stories, and I'm not talking about just you and I'm also talking to you out there as well, have pain, and yet they also have purpose, and that there is still some glimmer of hope. And I think sometimes when you just talk it out, you can understand and you can see, and you're reminded that God is still in the midst if we choose to look and find him. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching Mama and Her. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the fourth and final quarter of Mama and Her. We have been sharing our faith journey today. Had no doubt it was going to be an emotional episode. Yeah. But necessary. And again, I'm just grateful for your heart and for being open and transparent. And
same.
Yeah, and because that's what we wanted to do with this with this podcast, with this community, is be honest and transparent, because we hope that it provides a bit of, whether it be comfort, relatability,
to feel seen,
all of those things. So as we wrap up though the show today, we wanted to talk about and share just some ways that, we talked about the beginning. We've talked about, when we discovered our walk with God. We talked about our valleys and when our faith was tested and tried. And now, like, even just on a day-to-day basis now, as women who, as Christian women, how you incorporate God into your daily life. So
I'll pick my top 3 because there's lots. So if anyone, obviously our DMs are always open if you ever want to ask more questions about this. But for me personally, number 1 is worship music. I actually don't listen, and there's nothing wrong with people who listen to non-worship or Christian. There's nothing wrong. I'm not, but I just decided to mostly, unless it's like soca,
I know,
and some other things, but mostly it's worship music from morning to night, in the house, in the shower. It's just always on, and it's just. Yeah, always. I'm singing it. It's just when I feel down, it's on. So worship music, obviously there's so many amazing artists and groups like Maverick City and whatever,
new school to old school.
Exactly. So find what you love, and if it just helps, the words, everything. So number 1 is always having worship music available and on. I love to listen to Christian podcasts or sermons, short clips on YouTube, just to get a little bit of, if I, sometimes when you're watching church, you don't get everything. So I have a journal that is just for taking notes, and I just sit there and I take my notes. And I try to do that at least, not enough, but once a week. I want to do more. And then, for me, it's praying is really important. I saw with my mom, I wake up, I pray in the shower. I don't just stand in there and just bathe. I literally talk to God. And I pray in the car, and I'll be always praying, man. And I have some specific prayers I do recite, that, I found that are for certain things. So I'm just always in a state of prayer, I think, when I have free time, I feel or if I ever have questions, I'm just let me just talk to God, because, So yeah, those are some things I just try to incorporate. But what about you?
Similar. Yeah, definitely. My number one was talk to him, aka prayer. I do believe that with just like any other relationship, you think of your best friend, think whoever's on your speed dial, think who's the first person when you send a meme to, right? Those important people in your life, you have to cultivate a relationship with that person. You talk to them, you get to know them. And it's the same with God. And so for me, I talk to him like I talk to a friend. So I'm not very formal with my conversation and my prayer with him majority of the time. But I think he's, like I said, God can handle that. I think, a lot of people have this misconception that it has to be these loud, boisterous, professional, holy are thou prayers.
Or there's a structure you have to
Or there's a
follow.
structure or whatever the case is. And if you don't follow the structure, then it's not as worthy. It's not as good of a prayer. And that's not the truth at all. I truly in my heart believe that God desires communion with his children, with the people, the beautiful beings that he created. And again, it goes back to it, and that starts with us. We have to make the decision. So like you said, it's not God who shuts the door on the communication line. It's us. So talking to him is definitely something. And like you said, it doesn't matter where, it's so informal. It just becomes part of what you do throughout the day. And then to that point, like you said, with praise and worship music, it's so important. And everything you said, except I'll add to that, is it's because it creates and it sets an atmosphere of praise, of adoration, of appreciation.
Yes.
And it just gets you into this atmosphere and this mindset of gratefulness when I listen to it. And then that leads me to my third point where I said to guard your entryways, whether that's what's coming in through my ears, or aka what am I listening to, who am I listening to, right? You start to, maybe it's like you operate from a lens of, is this honoring God? So whether that's, and then my eyes, what am I watching? Or what am I looking at? What am I putting my attention to?
Yes.
And then it's my mouth, like what am I saying? Or what am I, integrating, ingesting, exactly. So it's all of those things. It's like constantly asking yourself, because listen, we're not perfect. We're not saying we are. It is a constant evolution. It is a constant journey until we transition off of this earth. It is going to constantly be a work in progress for all of us. And that is absolutely okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that. And so we wanted to end things with some scripture.
Yeah.
Because perhaps we are aware that maybe if you're tuning in, maybe this is like your first time even really hearing or listening about God, about being a Christian, and or have what that relationship is like. And for us, we are rooted in the Bible. It's great to talk about who he is and all of the good things that come with, like, oh wow, like God gave me, like he blessed me with this and he afforded me with this opportunity or that, and all of that is great. But a lot, like our day-to-day lives ought to be rooted in
And reflected,
in biblical words. And so, you have a few scriptures that you...
Yeah, there's so many I love, but I will just share two of my favorite. So 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4, it was my mom's, she used that in her wedding, in her vows. I also used it in my vows, and it's a very popular verse for weddings, but I actually wanted to get it tattooed on my forearm. That's how much, I just absolutely love it. So some of you might have heard before, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. That one just speaks to my soul. And then I guess the second one I'll share is Psalm 46 verse 5. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. And there's obviously different versions, but it's just the God is within her is just like, I want that tatted too. I have no tattoos, but if I did,
it would close contenders.
Yes, yeah.
I got you.
What about you? And I love that you have your physical Bible here.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's in maybe my top 3, but I think for the purpose of having this conversation today in this episode, I want to share this with our community and with our viewers. And that is John 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. That is truly at the heart of what we believe. And so that is absolutely a very important scripture. Another one, and I don't believe in happenstance, is Romans 8:28. And 8:28 happens to be my birthday. And here. So I got it. Yeah. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose.
Amen.
I feel like that was also a scripture that I leaned on heavily. And it feels like it's mine.
Yeah.
Because it's my birthday. It's can't forget it. It's Romans 8:28. And I know we said 2, but I'll leave with one more. It's Isaiah 43, verse 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? And with God, whether it be a valley, a hard time, maybe you've never known him all of your years, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever the case is. But when you are a new creature in Christ, it is a new thing. Do you not perceive it? So that would just be my encouragement to, as we wrap this up today is, hopefully, just by sharing our stories, perhaps that encourages somebody. And if they have any questions, like you said, our DMs are open. And perhaps you're willing to share with us, for those who have been in their walk, a time when your faith was tested, because it will most certainly have been. And we would want to hear that, because we also want to hear, because if it was tested, how you also got through it. So,
oh wait, we have to talk about these,
our lovely sweaters. Yeah, these are dope, and like they're custom too, right? Like obviously we're mama, but like check it out. It says since 2022,
Jan's
2020, and it even has our kids' names on the sleeve. So we just want to say a big thank you to Dee from Opal Creations for gifting us with these beautiful sweatshirts, and so thoughtful, comfy, but it's beautiful. It has so much meaning. Yeah, the customization is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, we love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Check her out on Instagram.
Thank you for listening, for being with us, for being part of our community. We hope even one little thing resonates with you and hopefully steers you in the right direction. We'll end it there.
Yeah.
And until next time.
Be blessed and enjoy.